All right, this section is dealing with radicals that have a square root in the denominator. And there's a process called multiplying by conjugates. And all a conjugate is if you're given a square root and you're adding a square root, it's like, I don't know what to call it. It's opposite or it's partner in crime. So this is like good and this is evil. So whenever you see one that is a positive, its conjugate is the same thing with a subtract. If you see one that has a subtract, its conjugate is the same thing that has a plus. Let me see if I can demonstrate that. So when you have square roots, you're not allowed to have when you have fractions, you're not allowed to have a square root in the denominator. So this one has a conjugate. Its conjugate is, since this is plus, its conjugate is subtract. So 5 subtract the square root of 3, but you have to multiply the same thing in the top and the bottom, because this is basically another way of saying the number 1. So you can multiply anything by the number 1. Now it's going to get a little bit tricky because you're going to have to, whatever term you used. I learned multiplying binomials with the word FOIL, but some people do double distributive, some people do box method, but no matter what you do, everything has to get multiplied by each other. So 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times a negative square root of 3 is negative 5 square roots of 3. And then the square root of 3 has to get multiplied. So a positive square root of 3 times 5 is positive 5 square roots of 3. And then a square root of 3 times a square root of 3 is just 3. But you've got a positive times a negative, so that's going to make that a negative. Now the reason a conjugate is useful is right here I have negative 5 square roots of 3 and a positive 5 square roots of 3. So those will cancel each other out. So then all I'm left with is 25 subtract 3. Awesome, that's 22 in the denominator. But in the top, in your numerator, you are going to have to multiply. So 7 times 5 is 35. 7 times negative 3 is negative 7 square roots of 3. So the final answer looks like, whoops, sorry you can't see that. I was trying to zoom out as much as possible. So that's what your final answer should be. Okay, so let's do one more. All right, so this one also has plus. I wish they would have given us a minus. That would have been great. So this one also has a plus. So I'm going to have to multiply by 4 subtract radical 5. But, oh, not equals, times 4 subtract square root of 5. All right, so you're going to have to FOIL. So in the bottom, 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times a negative 5 is negative 4 square roots of 5. And then the square root of 5 times 4 is a positive 4 square roots of 5. And then square root of 5 times square root of 5 is 5. But again, you've got a positive times a negative, so it's negative. All right. Then on the top, I'm going to distribute that 8. So I have 32 minus 8 radical 5. So the great thing about this is I have negative 4 root 5, positive 4 root 5. So those are going to cancel, and all I'm left with is 16 subtract 5. So that's 11, and then in the top I have 32 minus 8 radical 5. Okay, I am going to stop here, and then I'm going to post these answers in a separate video.